The day at the front was marked by a high intensity of air attacks. The enemy used a record 77,976 kamikaze drones and dropped 246 guided aerial bombs. In total, 124 combat engagements were recorded. The fiercest fighting was in the Pokrovsk direction, where defense forces repelled 22 assaults, and in the Huliaipol direction, where defenders fought off 15 enemy attacks. Details in our report.
In the Kharkiv region, the Ares Artillery Reconnaissance Unit of the 57th Motorized Infantry Brigade, named after Kostya Hordienko, is eliminating enemy artillery. Even targets that the enemy tries to hide deep in the rear, believing them to be out of reach, come under precise targeting. Minus the guns, minus the ammunition, minus the enemy's ability to strike our positions and cities. The brigade has found a new use for unmanned ground systems. And these are not just logistical and fire support tasks, but also the transport of prisoners from areas of intense shelling, so as not to expose Ukrainian soldiers to unnecessary risk. The fighters from the 115th Separate Mechanized Brigade are methodically clearing the sky of enemy lightnings, working intently as interceptors with no room for error, because every drone poses a real threat.
Watch out, grenade! Get down!
Meanwhile, another unit is destroying enemy assault troops on the ground. The soldiers discovered the intruders in the basement of a house. That's where they left them forever.
We quietly gathered ourselves, entered the building into the little dark spot, and then ran back.
The Kupiansk direction remains difficult, but thanks to the effective work of the UAV operators from the 116th Mechanized Brigade, the enemy is losing equipment, and therefore, their capabilities are diminishing. Drone pilots from the 63rd Brigade continue to destroy the Muscovites in the Lyman area. While the enemy tries to amass resources, our defenders are reducing their potential even before the Russians get close to our positions. In the Sloviansk direction, the enemy is advancing from 3 sides toward the village of Zakitne.
Recently, several small enemy groups managed to cross the Siversky Donets River over frozen sections and infiltrate the area between our positions. Currently, Ukrainian units are carrying out search and strike missions to locate and eliminate the enemy within the settlement.
Russian troops are also advancing from the direction of the Serebryansky forestry and are using the lowlands as cover. In the area of responsibility of the 81st Airmobile Brigade, the number of enemy strike and reconnaissance drones has increased, complicating logistics in the direction of the villages of Platonivka and Dronivka. In the area of the settlements of Bondarny and Nikiforivka, operators of the 30th Mechanized Brigade are working with drones day and night. Border guards from the Phoenix unit are preventing the occupiers from approaching Kostiantinivka, thwarting enemy assaults. The fighters eliminate enemy personnel, disrupt logistics, and destroy enemy artillery. Every day, a significant part of this work is also carried out by the artillerymen of the 28th Brigade. Their actions are spoken for by the salvos of their guns, which constantly increase the numbers in the General Staff's reports. From the battlefield, from damaged routes, equipment often returns out of order, and then its path leads to the Repair and Recovery Battalion. Here the specialists do everything possible to get the equipment back in action, because every restored unit means mobility, evacuation, or delivery.
At the moment, as you can see, a medium repair is being carried out on a fuel tanker based on the Ural 4320.
Heavy fighting continues in the Pokrovsk direction. The Russians are concentrating their forces in the northwestern part of Pokrovsk and are increasingly sending infantry toward Hrishain. The village is being attacked from almost all sides by small groups. Over the past week, our defenders have eliminated nearly 400 occupiers here. Drones remain the most effective tool for disrupting the enemy's offensive attempts. In the first days of February, units from various branches of the military destroyed over 50 armored vehicles, nearly 100 trucks and cars, and eliminated 233 shelters in the hottest sector. In particular, these figures come from the FPV drone operators of the 25th Airborne Sich Brigade. They targeted enemy vehicles on the approaches to Pokrovsk and in the city center. With faith in our soldiers, Tetiana Litvin, Inter, Podrobici, United News Marathon.
We're returning to the swamps. As they say, it's not just about the mosquitoes. A massive fire and detonation is ongoing at the warehouse of the Russian Main Missile and Artillery Directorate in the Volgograd region. Today, drones paid a visit there as well, local drones too. Thanks to them for the video. They published what you see on your screens. This is a video showing the strikes and repeated explosions filmed by residents of Kotluban, where this main arsenal is located. They are being evacuated, and right now they're showing us this video of the repeated detonation. There was a flash, now it will flare up again, and so on. At this point, it's probably not so much about what hit, but the fact that something did hit. Because if the arsenal was struck and there's a repeated detonation, then the risk of it spreading to other storage sites within the arsenal is enormous, since it's so huge.
I would like to witness the effect of a chain reaction. When everything explodes and detonates, even what's underground due to active detonation. So here, once again, we need to discuss our capabilities in detail to launch a sufficiently large number of munitions that can reach such depths and create significant problems. For the enemy, it's important not only to use actual munitions, but also to use decoys to overload the air defense system. This is, once again, what the enemy does. By overloading our air defense system. But in any case, again, the ground depots. This is a critical logistical component where a substantial quantity of weaponry is stored, which is then actively deployed across the territory of Ukraine. Therefore, in principle, there should be more such operations. But again, let's return to intelligence gathering. We need to understand where to strike in order to effectively destroy this depot. We need to monitor the dynamics of weapon deliveries to this depot. On which days, in which warehouses there is more weaponry, and what kind of weaponry, because accordingly, the effect we achieve will depend on which warehouse with which weapons we hit. And that is exactly why, in fact, intelligence work is also very important here. As Mr. Budanov once clearly emphasized, that we truly need to obtain more detailed intelligence data there. And we should be very grateful that we have the valuable opportunity to purchase intelligence data from the Americans. What they provide us is only a small percentage. And again, coming back to the perception of information regarding intelligence data, recently Macron also stated that they are providing us with a large amount of information. Here we need to understand what kind of information they are giving us. Is it just satellite images that, in principle, we could get from commercial satellites? Or is it detailed processed information, long-term monitoring of certain groups of forces on which days certain events take place? Weapon supplies, delivery dates, and destinations.
So what exactly is currently being monitored and tracked? I would imagine that you carefully analyze the overall strategic condition of Russian military facilities, various types of missiles, combat aircraft, and their highly sophisticated air defense networks in great detail. Do you remember when the then head of the security service, Vasyl Malyuk, reported on the number of Pantsirs destroyed, how many they produce, and what they are unable to cover, the number destroyed? And what are they able to cover today in terms of quantity? As I understand it, they are covering missiles. What they launch, they are able to produce in sufficient quantities. But what about their air defense systems and electronic warfare? How are they doing in that regard?
I would probably look at this from a slightly different angle. We really like to actively tell the United States and other countries how many Western components are in Russian weapons. But the problem is that the number of Russian-made components is increasing significantly. The number of Chinese components, which we cannot influence, is also increasing significantly. Let's take a look at who the Russian Federation is working with. The Russian Federation works with Belarus, which supplies some electronics that, in terms of technology, are basically at the level of the early 2000s. But that was back when Russia had a carte blanche and could install French avionics in its Sukhoi aircraft. In other words, that's exactly what they're lacking now for their Su-34 and Su-35, which they call 4+ generation aircraft. Additionally, it's important to mention that at the same time, Iran is actively supplying certain technologies and exchanging technologies with the Russian Federation. Shaheds, Geran, and Karar, a jet-powered drone that in profile closely matches a cruise missile, North Korea, ballistic missiles, artillery shells, and China, which supplies a large number of various inexpensive components for strike drones. Let's note, for example, that Russia is the first to buy up fiber optic cable from China. There's none left, not for us, not for Europe, not for the United States, not even for civilian needs. So here we need to point out that Russia has managed to unite around itself a number of countries that supply it with components. Additionally, there are other countries that, for example, can provide them with the purchase of Starlinks. This also needs to be taken into account. Therefore, here, in any case, when communicating with our Western partners, it is definitely necessary to say that we still need to ask about the ultimate beneficiaries, who is buying your high-tech solutions. At the same time, we need to emphasize that we must join forces in order to more effectively counter the Russian threat. That is perhaps the best sanctions. After all, strikes on military targets on the production facilities of the Russian Federation are more effective than simply depriving them of some economic component.
Thank you, Mr. Anatoly. Anatoly Krapchinsky was our studio guest. He is the Director of Development at a defense enterprise and a reserve officer of the Air Force. Thank you.